All right, welcome to this week's Walk and Talk then. And we're going to kick off with the craziest thing that I heard yesterday. This came out of COP28. COP is like the gift that just keeps on giving. So let's start with the craziest thing that I heard yesterday. Unelected officials. It's time to stop people eating whatever they want. Yes, they actually said this. And because of that, I thought I would begin this walk and talk today at Tynwald, which is just behind me. And Tynwald is the oldest parliament in the world that you can see just behind me here. So why is that important to actually show you this? Well, it's because what happens is citizens vote, they elect officials, and then the officials work on behalf of the citizens to then pass things that make life better for the citizens. That's how it should work. And you think about everything we have at the minute, you look at the United Nations and the IMF and all these three-letter organizations, and you ask the question, how many of those people did you vote for? Even the European Parliament, you look at the European Parliament, how many of those people did you vote for if you're in Europe? You look at, let's say, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister in the UK. How many of you voted for Rishi? No one. Okay, so these are all the things that we are dealing with at the moment, and that's why we're having a lot of issues in the world. So let's look at some of the main headlines we're going to talk about today then. The IMF has introduced a new carbon tax. We mentioned this yesterday. Yet oil exports are at an all-time high. I'll explain why that is for the USA. The big plan has in fact now worked. If you look at Russia, Ukraine, Nord Stream, everything like that. Let's see if we can tie that in together without the video getting censored too much. What else are we going to look at today? The terror level has been raised in both the EU and the US. Trust in the media is at an all-time low. People are withdrawing from their 401ks. There's huge losses in the banking industry. Central banks are buying up gold. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about today. So we will begin in this lovely setting. Yes, I know it's raining, but as long as it doesn't rain too hard, all the equipment should be okay. Not like that one we did a while back on the mountain where it absolutely destroyed all of the equipment. I think I'm gonna go down this way. I can't even see anything. But hey, that's just part of this business in what I do for you. You support me, I support you. So let's look at this first headline then, and it says, IMF carbon pricing would raise trillions. The IMF suggests the introduction of an implicit carbon tax and that citizens want this. See, this is the thing that always annoys me, is when they add in lines like that right at the end. Citizens want this. No, they don't. The citizens don't have any involvement because they're not elected officials at the IMF. So somehow they've done what, a survey? Where was this survey conducted? Because it's not on their website. So when they make claims like this, that the citizens want this global carbon tax that's going to raise trillions. Now, as always, the first thing you want to do is you want to ask a question. I'll stand here so you can see the beautiful church behind. The first thing you want to do is you want to ask the question, who's going to be in control of the carbon tax system? The IMF, a private bank. Yes, they are a private bank, not a charity. They're not a government organization, as people always say to me. They're not. They're a private bank. They're going to be in control of it for the world. Okay, there's the first red flag right away. The second one is whenever you have all these people like Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, all the usual suspects that are pushing for it, and they're doing all this media and they're speaking at all these big events and saying we have to have it. Again, why are they involved in it? What is their role in this? Oh, the church bells are going. I didn't time this, by the way. I didn't plan this. Beautiful, beautiful. This area actually is gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning here. It's called Tynwald, if you ever come to the Isle of Man. Now, according to the IMF's analysis then, they claim that fossil fuel subsidies have soared to over $7 trillion, driven up partly by governments and lobbying. I don't doubt that at all. I really don't. I don't doubt for a second that there's all these subsidies in the region of $7 trillion, and it's come from governments and lobbying. I'm sure that's true. Oh, we're on a busy road here. I'll pause for a second. We'll start again by the chickens. Okay, the ducks and the chickens are not going to be happy with me right now, because usually I have lots of seed. I bring a bag of seeds and grains and all sorts for them, but I'm in the van today, so I haven't brought it, so they're gonna not be impressed. Oh, here we go. As soon as I've walked through the gate, this is what I'm greeted with. Gosh, they're running, here we go. I'm really sorry, guys and gals, but the thing is, I had the seed, but someone stole it on the way. Oh my gosh, here come the ducks. Here come the ducks. Sorry, I'll bring it next time. Oh no, they're all coming. They're all coming. Oh gosh, look at this. Look at this. Sorry guys, not today. I know, I'm sorry. I let you down. Okay, excuse me, coming through here. Right, let's continue on with what they said then. Okay, I'm going to start with some of the most shocking statements that we heard. Number one, we need to take aim at planet warming food. That is an actual statement. I've got 3 of these shocking statements that I've pulled out. We need to take aim at planet warming food. That's the next target they've got. They want to reduce the issue with planet warming food by 1/3. This is actually what they've said. And it's on the website for those people who don't believe this sort of stuff. Go and have a look for yourself. The next statement, just to shock him, why should people be able to eat whatever they want at the expense of others? Okay. Yeah, why should people be able to eat whatever they want? Indeed. And then the third one, I think it's time we took a hard look at what we are eating and say, no, actually, you cannot eat this to your heart's content. We need to set boundaries if we have any chance of preventing global boiling this decade. We simply don't have the luxury of time. Look, whenever I hear the term global boiling and we don't have the luxury of time, I switch off right away, because I know they're just repeating these sort of narratives. Most of the people, they've never done their own research on any of this stuff. So, God, the chickens, they don't give up. The chickens follow for the longest. And remember what I said as well about their 2026 date, 2026, 2027 date, that this is the cutoff. If the temperatures and everything else and the emissions isn't resolved by 2026, 2027, that's it. There's no turning back. It's irreversible. I guarantee you, by the time we get to 2026, 27, they will say, oh, it's 2030 now. They'll delete all of that stuff and they'll say 2030. And then when they get to 2030, they'll say, oh, it's 2035 now. It's completely irreversible. If we don't do something now, that's it. The world is over. And talking of meat, well, I can actually hear a siren for the first time, I think, ever on a walk. There is ambulance or something siren behind me. You never hear sirens on the Isle of Man, almost ever. Okay, I've got my friends behind. They're supporting actors in the video today. So the next one is Italy has just banned lab-grown meat to protect its farming industry. Cultivated meat, also known as lab-grown meat, is created in a lab through a 5-step process in which stem cells from an animal are replicated and grown in a series of bioreactors before being blended with additives to create a more realistic texture. The meat cells are then drained in a centrifuge, formed and packaged for distribution. Does that sound tasty to you? Because it doesn't sound that tasty to me. So the Italian Minister of Agriculture, Francesco Lollobrigida. Okay, the Italians are getting annoyed now. They're sat there going, Neil, what do you cannot pronounce the names? And now they're going to get annoyed at my terrible Italian. accent. In defense of health, of the Italian production system, of thousands of jobs, of our culture and tradition, with the law approved today, Italy is the first nation in the world to be safe from the social and economic risks of synthetic food. That is the statement put out by their agriculture minister. This is to protect Italy's $10.1 billion meat processing industry. And of course, Bill Gates was there at COP. He obviously wasn't happy about this Italian protection that's just been put in place. But Bill Gates was there at COP. And it just makes me laugh, because it says, if you look at under his name, it says Bill Gates, agricultural expert. And it's like, hold on, I thought he was a Microsoft, I thought he was a tech computing expert. Then he was a vaccine expert. Then he was a COVID expert. Then he was a farming expert. Now he's an agriculture, now he's a food expert. Now he's a biosynthetic food. Like, come on. I don't know. I don't know. It just gets more and more bizarre every single day. And we've just had announcements come out that the US now is the largest energy supplier to Europe. And it said something around our energy objectives in relation to the Ukraine war have now been achieved. What exactly does that mean? I wonder. Perhaps it's something to do with Nord Stream. Perhaps it's something to do with the reliance that Europe had on Russian energy, because now the US is the largest exporter. And it states on the US government website that production reached its highest level in September at 13.2 million barrels per day. The end of a decades-long export ban in 2015 has allowed the US to become a major player in global energy markets. At the same time, oh, you're going to love this statement. You're going to absolutely love this statement. At the same time, nuclear energy production fell by 4% last year. Nuclear energy's global share in electricity production fell to its lowest level since the 1980s. Climate activists, here we go, here's what you're going to love, call this a huge win for the world in helping to reduce emission targets closer to within the UN guidelines. Gosh, I just wish some of these climate activists knew the basic foundations of energy production and knew that nuclear doesn't produce emissions. I thought this was common sense. I thought this was common knowledge. It produces less emissions than solar and wind and everything, almost all of them combined. It's there on the government energy website. It shows you the statistics on this. Sorry, I know I go on about this a lot, but I just feel embarrassed at the level of, or should I say that the lack of knowledge on some of these things. And then this is where I get comments, by the way, oh yes, but Neil, nuclear is dangerous and whatever. Completely irrelevant to the point I'm making. I'm making the point on emissions. But anyway, it's crazy. The next story then, we've just had the US terror threat level raised to the highest in actually I don't know the highest in when, but it says since 9/11. FBI Director Christopher Wray informed lawmakers that the US faces unprecedented terrorist threat since the start of the Israel-Hamas conflict in October, noting that all threats are elevated simultaneously. He compared the current situation to the pre-9/11 period. Oh, great. Well, we know what happened in 9/11, don't we? And what happened after that. Let's hope we don't have a repeat. And I love the way when you're reading through these articles that people like to, add their own spin and statements and stuff. This one was, let me read this out to you. Someone added this line: unprovoked Islamist attacks. Yeah, I just cannot imagine what is the reason for this increase of what they are calling unprovoked Islamist attacks in the US and elsewhere. I can't imagine why this would be occurring right now. This was also in the same article that they just mentioned Israel Hamas. No, I can't imagine why the US is having any issues at all. I don't know. And then trust in the media. Gosh, it's raining pretty hard now. Trust in the media is at an all-time low, not just in the US, but around the world. But predominantly it's Western nations now. The trust in the media is so low that, I mean, it's crazy, absolutely crazy if you check this chart on screen here. And as always, they point out that Democrats tend to trust the media a lot more than Republicans. But moving on to a couple of financial points then. I don't know if we're going to find any protection from the rain here. We'll just keep going. 401k balances are down heavily and last resort withdrawals are up. This is not a positive thing, but they're saying that people are struggling so much at the moment financially that they are withdrawing from their 401k and other plans, which if you understand this, you'll know why. That's kind of a last resort thing to do. Because if you were taxed at a high rate, for example, and you put it into your retirement, your pension, everything else, if you withdraw from that now early, you're going to have to pay the penalty on it. So this is why this is kind of a big deal and shows the struggles going on at the moment in the US. The other big one that isn't making much news is that the money supply is collapsing. In fact, it's collapsed at the moment by the biggest amount ever since the Great Depression. So the numbers on this are pretty staggering. The growth rate is down negative 9.33%, and it's fallen 13.1% ever since April of 2022. And if you understand what it means, basically it signifies a recession. It's one indicator out of a lot of indicators that signals a recession is coming. Now, I've got some different views on this recession that's coming up. I think it's going to be harsher in certain places than in others. I'm not so sure anymore if the US is going to see a recession as harsh as I initially thought, because the whole situation with the reserve currency is really giving the US a get out of jail free card. But I see other countries are going to have a much harsher time. And we look at what's going on with central banks at the moment. They are buying gold like crazy. I think they're buying this gold in preparation for this new system. I do think we're going to see a new digital system, central bank digital currency system. And I think that's why they are buying gold like crazy. Oh, we got a little robin there. There he is. Got a little robin in the bush just there. Oh wow, he's tame. In fact, central banks just in October added another 42 tons of gold to their reserves. I mean, that is absolutely huge how much they've just added. And the biggest buyers at the moment are Turkey, Poland, India, Czech Republic and Qatar. Now, Poland's an interesting one because they have got now, they're buying approximately 300 tons. And this is part of a plan, we'll call it, to align its GDP with gold reserves. And in 2022, there were 1,136 tons of gold added to central banks. This is the highest ever since 1971, which we all know what happened in 1971 with Nixon and the gold standard and everything else. So history doesn't ever repeat, but it certainly rhymes. We're seeing a lot changing, huge amount changing. And the World Gold Council anticipates another substantial year in 2024. 71% expect global reserves to grow in the next 12 months. Now let's end with a couple of wild ones then. And this one's crazy. We talked before about the Blade Runners cutting down the ULEZ cameras and damaging them and everything else. A public service, as it were. But I kind of feel like someone has gone a little bit too far with doing a IED, an explosive device. However, I'm going to just comment on this. So apparently someone set up this quite sophisticated explosive device which blew up a ULEZ camera, damaged a van, damaged a house where a kid was sleeping and all this other stuff. And well, if it's all legit and genuine, then yeah, that is crazy. That's way too far. There's a difference between cutting a cable or smashing a camera or whatever, and actually blowing up. Yeah, just wild. So this actually happened. Now, I've got a theory that, maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a random member of the public. Because if you look at the device and you listen to what's being said, they said it's very sophisticated, and it is someone has vast knowledge and experience with explosive devices and all this other thing. I'm just not so sure if this was just a random person in the public, because look, these Blade Runners have got massive public support. And also last week I asked you about, if you're in the US, if you're a nurse or whatever, if it's true about the terminology of women has been replaced on the CDC systems, etc., from woman or mother to pregnant person. And it is true. It actually is true. Thanks for sending that through to me. I looked it up and I found the information on it. I'm just amazed. I'm very surprised that this exists in the US, but I guess I shouldn't be. Well, all right, I think that wraps up this week's walk and talk then. I'll go and say hello to my friends behind me now. And if you need any pet chickens on the Isle of Man, this is pretty much where you come. They lay a lot of eggs. They have a lot of chicks, these guys, and then the chicks just kind of disappear. So I'm assuming someone's coming to collect them anyway. All right, thanks for being online. Thanks for being a member, a subscriber here. Take care, God bless you, God bless your families, and I will see you next week. Bye for now. Who's knocking at the door? Let's have a look, shall we? It's Winston. Winston, you look like a drowned rat today. Look at the state of you. What have you been doing? You are drenched.